Hey, how are you doing? Let's get started with a new digital art tutorial in Procreate. This time we will be painting a vase with flowers, a still life. And it'll be a bit more advanced level, this tutorial. It's the photo that you picked in the poll, but don't worry, I really like the other photos as well, so I might do something with a cloth in the future as well. But for now, we'll be painting these flowers and I'm so excited to get started. Our canvas is 3000 by 4000 pixels. And let's grab the reference photo. I'll drop it in the post so you can use the same reference photo as I'm using here. I'm going to grab Drive. That's where I have the photo. And let's make it a bit smaller. And let's get started with a sketch. I'll use the Sketch It brush for that, but you can use any brush that you like to use for sketching, like an HB pencil in Procreate or, well, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to start by trying to find those basic shapes, like in the ebook that I made about, well, you can sketch anything. And of course, you can sketch this vase as well. And I'll just try to measure this distance between the side of the canvas and that vase. I can see that round shape in the body of the vase. Try to check that distance between the top of the canvas and where those flowers start. I feel like I'm making everything a bit too big right now. But don't worry, it's a sketch, so we can fix things. We can keep it messy at this stage and tweak things as we go. You have the big pink peony here. Make it a bit smaller so I can compare the sizes better. Just trying to find the correct place for everything. Let me use this very rough sketch as a base for a new sketch. I'm going to turn down the opacity to around 25% and make a new layer on top. I'll set my brush to 40%. I'm just gonna refine everything a little bit. Taking a closer look at the sizes, angles, using more rounded shapes in this stage. Sketching in those lines that you can see on the, I'm not sure if it's porcelain, on the vase anyway. Making a kind of a circle for that inner part of the flower. We don't have to sketch out every single detail, just get an idea of where all these complicated flowers are located. As you can see, I'm not drawing in any, not a lot of details into these flowers. I just want that kind of an outline so that I'll know in the painting phase where all these flowers are located. Got that leaf down here. And if you feel more comfortable sketching everything out, then of course you can, well, you can just do that and add way more detail to the sketch. But I like to keep it kind of rough, and I want to flesh everything out in the painting phase. So let's move to that phase right now. I'm going to merge these sketch layers, and I'll just call this one, and let me duplicate it so we can save this process. I'll make a new layer below that new sketch layer, and this is where we will paint. And let me just grab a big brush, like the thick square chalk. And let me just, I'll put that in the post so you can use it too if you like. Let's get a dark underground first. We can see some green colors there. It's a bit grayish. I want to go more towards green. A bit more yellowish. Let's just start with that. I'll put it in the color palette. I'm just going to drop in a dark background. I'll go more towards these greens. Yeah, something like that. And I like using a brush like this one because it doesn't let you add any detail. You can really do a rough block in, just focusing on some main colors and shadows. I'll go a lot darker in that area. That's nice. So this is just a real rough block in. I can see that I can no longer see my sketch there, so I think I'll just add a little bit of blobs to that face before I do that left area. some shadow here. And let me for now add some colors on a new layer on top of this one. I'll merge them later. I want to add some colors of those flowers. That's too greenish. Sometimes I just drop in some colors on my canvas to check if they are what I want. And then when I think I need to move a bit towards a warmer color or cooler color, then I switch. Let me grab some pink for that flower. Some purples for those smaller flowers here. It's just a little hint. And some very light pink. Just blocking in these flowers with real big blobs. I'll go back to that underground layer. Now let me grab that dark color for this side. I'll go back to the flower layer and I want to work on these very dark leaves right there. You can see that they are darker than the background. Just adding some shadows here and there. It's a bit like a dark underpainting. You know, perhaps we can just let these two layers be separate. We'll just have one layer for that background and one layer for the vase and the flowers. Let me grab a color for the vase. Oh, let me drop this in as well. All right, a color for the vase. Let's grab something a bit gray. Just something dark that we can build from. Some touches of light. And let's grab a light color to add some dabs for these light flowers. And like I said, working with a big brush like this one, it really allows you to just focus on the overall big shapes and the colors and not let you get distracted by details that you might want to add. Shadow on this side. I'm making it smaller so I can compare it with the photo a bit better. I want to add some yellowish to this vase on this side. You can see some yellow glow. And let's add that little leaf at the bottom. I think this is a nice rough start. Now I want to blend everything a little bit, and I've got a nice canvas, well, a dry mixer brush. Let me try the dry mixer brush. This is a brush that you can just use on any surface. So let me just duplicate this first. It's a bit like a blender brush, but you don't have to use the smudge tool for this one. And it has this nice canvas texture. So it can give the suggestion of real paint on canvas. Just moving everything around a little bit. Let's do the same for these flowers. Just softening everything up a little bit, and at the same time adding that little texture. There, let me turn down the sketch layer now, just a little bit. And let's get started painting more on these layers. Let's start with the background again first. And I'll use my Basic Flow canvas brush. It's like the Basic Flow, but with canvas texture. And with that Basic Flow brush, we are going to refine everything a little bit, pushing, pulling, adding darker parts, lighter parts. And just for your info, right now, this is that stage when I feel like, oh wow, how am I going to turn this into a realistic looking vase with flowers? This is always the part that gets me really nervous, but in the end, it always works out. So if you are experiencing moments like that when painting, no worries, I experience them too. I want to darken this corner right here. So I've grabbed a darker green. Put it in there. I'm just going to work on the values a bit, parts that I feel like should be darker. I'm going to darken those up. And it really helps if you look through your eyelashes when painting something like this to judge the values of your painting. It's easier to see that way if some parts need to lighten up or darken up. Also just picking up some local colors. I see some touches of blues in the background, so we can just pick up that color there and then move it a bit towards blue to add some blue touches as well. It's a great way to make sure that your colors blend nicely with the colors that you already have there. And it's also what I do when I want to tweak colors a bit. When I feel like a certain area is too yellowish, for example, if I feel like I need to turn it a bit towards blue, then I'll just pick up that color, go to that color wheel, and move it towards the color that I need. A very light edge here. Now let's move to that flower layer. Let me remove some parts here. It's just not filled in, I guess. Let me see. Oh, just need to darken that up a bit. All right, to those flowers and that vase. Not worrying about that pattern yet. Just trying to look through squinted eyes to see where the light is hitting on this vase, where the lightest areas are and where the darkest areas are. Oops. I can see, for example, that I need to lighten up that upper part of this flower. And this one here is very light. Let me grab some lighter green for those leaves. And this is really the way I generally work, from messy, big blotches to smaller and smaller details. If your messy work looks right, when you just look at the values and the shapes, if you squint your eyes and it looks like a blurry version of the painting that you want to make, then you are heading in the right direction. And then eventually the whole detailing part just isn't the hardest part. You can then just slowly work everything out. Working messy like this can give it a more painterly feel, your painting. little hint of that pattern here. I'm really just trying to look at blotches of color. Blotches of dark and light. And I'm also, with this red, just also adding some red to this flower, spreading these colors throughout the painting. So we get a nice harmony. I want to work on that vase a little bit. Going to move towards that background layer. I want to darken that up a little bit. Refine that edge of the vase some more. Because that vase, that sure has a very sharp edge. You really want that to be visible. Now let me just turn off the sketch layer. Going back to the flower layer. When you look at this vase, you might feel like it's just a white with blue vase. But when you look at that right side of the vase, you can clearly see that there are some yellow colors over there. It is some warm light. So as always with painting, don't let what you think you know, don't let that influence you. Look at what you are really seeing. Try to judge the colors without thinking of the vase and that it's a white vase with blue ornaments. On this side, that's where it has a very cool light blue. So on the left side we have these cool lights, cool blues, and on the right side you get these warm yellows. Let's zoom out on both. I want to add some more light to those flowers. Just grab that color in the palette. And it really helps to stay zoomed out a lot, to focus on the bigger picture. Go back to that background layer. Now let's check the difference between what we have now and what we had before. You can see everything is a bit more blended, softer. And I think it's time to move on to the next vase. No, not vase, next vase. You're painting a vase. Okay, let's call that 4. All right, I think it's time we get started with detailing and really flesh out this vase. For the detailing, I would like to start with that big flower in the middle, because that is kind of the focal point in this painting. So I want to start with that one. So I'm on the flower layer, and let me grab the darken line brush to start adding some little details. I just picked a local color, and I want to add some dark parts right in those folds that you see. Adding some lines for these petals. And we don't have to copy the flower exactly. But of course, we do want to make a realistic looking flower here. So we're using that reference as a guide. You don't have to get every little petal to be exactly the same as in the reference. Let me switch back to that basic flow canvas brush. Just gonna pick up local colors and flesh out these petals. Working on those shapes. And find these edges on the outside. You can see some clear edges there, so we want to get those. Going petal to petal. Making sure that we got some clear edges around here. Picking up that green to make a little indent there. So right now we'll work zoomed in a bit, and I'll just focus on this middle flower. And I'm sure that if I get this flower to look good, that'll give some confidence for the rest of the painting. Make sure that you got some clear edges on the outside of the flower. You don't want that to be blurry now. So we started out blurry, and I will slowly add these details. And I like picking up local colors. Once you have most of your colors down, you can just keep picking up local colors and paint with those. And when you want to warm up some parts, cool down some colors, then you can pick up, well, you can grab some new colors, or if you need to lighten something. For instance, I want a nice deep reddish color, a bit towards pink. I want to use that on that inside. So that's when I pick up some new colors. It's already starting to flesh out a little bit. I just zoom out every once in a while to check everything. I'm going in the right direction. I'm gonna add some more lighter details now. I see some yellowish colors on that, or orange-like on this right side. So let me grab an orange color, yellowish, and go over the area a little bit. And I think we can also use the light and line brush right now to add even more light details. Just focusing on those lightest parts in the flower, adding some little dabs. Also working on these light edges around the petals. Slowly working my way around the flower. I still feel like it needs a bit more red. This flower. So I want to fix that. So I'm going to grab the overlay brush. I'll pick that reddish color, or maybe even more this red. And I'll gently glaze over it. Now let me grab the lighten brush to lighten some parts. And with a brush like this, the whole texture that we created using the basic flow canvas brush, it stays intact, so that's nice. Let's check the difference. There. Now our flower is more detailed. And let's continue. Let's work on these leaves surrounding this flower right now. I'm going back to the basic flow canvas brush. Make it pretty small. Now I'm going to flesh out these leaves. Again, you can pick up local colors if you like. Really trying to work on some edges, fleshing out these leaves. Varying my brush size. You really want some clear edges surrounding that flower. I'm really going for a bit of a painterly look in this painting, so you don't have to go crazy on small details. I think a nice painterly look really suits this subject of a still life. I never made oil paintings actually. I did some acrylics when I was younger, but well, for oil I really didn't have the patience to wait for the paint to dry. And also all the tools that you need, they take up so much space. And with the iPad, once you have it and once you have Procreate, you don't need to buy any paints. You don't have to clean your paintbrushes. So that's a big plus as far as I'm concerned. All right, I want to work on the vase now because I think the vase, well, for me, I think it's the hardest part. I really want to get that right, so let's just get that over with. Zoom in a bit. And let's grab a very dark blue. I still have the basic flow canvas brush. Let me turn this around to get that line. It's slightly curvy. Not that curvy actually, need to fix it just a little bit. Place that light line in between. Still a bit undecided if I want to make the pattern on a new layer or on the same layer. Trying to make up my mind here. Now I think painting it on the same layer will perhaps give a more painterly feel, but when I do it on a new layer, on a separate layer, I'll get more control over that color on the underground, the white of the vase. So I'm not entirely sure yet. I think I'll do it on a separate layer. Let's go for it. Let's use this dark blue. And let's just start somewhere. I want to get a more saturated blue. Make this line first. It's going towards that flower here. Well, the person who really decorated this vase must have had so much patience. Just trying to make these lines first, so I can see where they, those leaves need to be placed. Well, it's not entirely the same as the original, but that's also because I don't have a lot of patience. And also I want this tutorial to not last too long. So it won't bore you. Of course, when you make your vase, if you want to get it exactly right, then you can spend more time on it than I can for a video like this. It could be that I'll forget some of these leaves. But for me, the most important part is that I can show you how you can approach painting a painting like this one with a painterly feel. Now we got a nice base for our pattern, and let's add some more bright blue to it, like here for that flower. Some of these leaves, they have a very saturated blue in them. So let's add some saturation. Some very dark ones. Now I want to work on that vase itself, on the vase layer, to work on the colors there a bit. I want to go a bit lighter and a bit warmer on this side. Let's make the brush bigger. Maybe a bit yellowish. Oh, that's too much. A bit more grayish. Let me pick up this color. For those yellow tones. Erasing a little part here, cleaning that up. Now let me use the overlay brush on this layer with the pattern. I've set it to alpha lock so I can only paint on that pattern. Then I'll use overlay. I want to add more blue. Maybe I can also darken it up a little bit by using multiply. Let's duplicate it. Yeah, it's a lot darker this way. I'm going to turn down the opacity to 50%. And then I'll just merge these and let me merge them with the oh wait. No. Let me duplicate this first in case you want to see it. There. And let's also check the difference. There, we got a lot more detail now. So now I'll merge these so we can just paint on the entire vase. I'll zoom in a bit. And let me use a darken line for a bit. Use that to refine the pattern in some places. Making some more clean lines. Now we'll move to this top part See that I even missed a part of the decoration. So I'll just add that in. You can see that the pattern is not really accurate here at the top. Let me grab the Basic Flow canvas brush to move that up a little bit. Then I'll grab the light and line brush to bring back some of these light lines. And also down here for the pattern. Messed up there. All right, let me add some highlights. We can see that bright highlight here on top of that flower. And a highlight here. And on this little edge, and one here. There, now it already looks shiny. A shiny looking vase. All right, now we got a nice base for the vase. So let's continue working on the other flowers. I must say that I actually kind of like that whole rough painterly look of the rest of the of the flowers, but we are going to add more detail there. But first I want to fix that vase. I just had a break and I noticed that the proportions are a bit off. I must say that it's sometimes hard to see when I work in this setup when I'm recording, because I'm constantly looking at a certain angle, and with these lights hitting my screen, it's sometimes hard to see that. So let me grab the liquify tool and fix that vase a little bit. I noticed that it wasn't entirely symmetrical. Felt like it was a bit skewed. So yeah, I must say that when I'm recording, everything is always a bit more challenging for me because I constantly work at the same angle. I have these lights shining on my iPad, which also works as a distraction. Of course, I feel the pressure because I want to do everything right and I want to explain things to you. So that also makes it a bit harder. Strain on my neck, working in the same angle constantly. And also the time pressure, because I don't want to spend too much time. I want to explain a lot of things in a short amount of time and don't make a video that is like 6 or 12 hours long. That would just be too much. I think that's better. We don't want to have a weird looking vase here. All right, let me just darken that underside a little bit. I'll go to the basic flow canvas and grab this dark color. And I'll make that little shadow underneath that vase. Maybe darken this line as well. But I always try to take regular breaks. I usually take a break every hour or half an hour. And then I can check the work from a distance and from a different angle. So that does help. But when I make some personal work, personal paintings in Procreate, I actually prefer to just sit on the couch. And I switch up my pose a lot. Oh, I'm working on that. Yeah, of course, I'm working on I thought I was on a wrong layer. But no. There. Now I'll go to the other flowers. Let's start with that other peony. Is that the right way to pronounce it? That other flower here. And let's refine those petals. And I just want to make sure that those bigger flowers, that those have the most detail. I want to work on those first. And then we can add a bit more to those smaller flowers. But yeah, I think I like to keep it a bit painterly. I want to make sure that we create these edges here for the petals, some sharper edges. I'll remove a little bit here. Grab this light pink from that flower in the middle. And I want to use a more saturated pink over there. Now I do hope that my sound is working properly in this video, because I've had some problems with my microphone lately. It ends up adding these weird frog-like sounds. And of course I don't want that. So I hope it's working properly for this video. Let's take a look at the difference. Yeah, we got some more detail now. Okay, let's also work on that, well, on those leaves right here. Gonna remove a little bit. So we'll work on those leaves and on that purple little flower. Let me grab a darker purple. And I'll just make some dabs for these flowers. They're a lot lighter here near that tip. So I won't use that very dark color there. I'm really going for a very blurry version right now. And now we're at these white little flowers. Let's work on some of these edges here. We also have a little bit of purple here. Some green for that stem. Let's move to this flower in the back. Making these small shapes of these little flowers here. And there are also some purplish blue flowers here. Now again, I want to make sure that these edges are nice and crisp here. You can see that outline of the flower. We don't want that to be blurry anymore. Let me add a little bit of saturated color to the flower. So I want to go to the overlay brush again and add some bright pink to these flowers here. Oh, of course, I do need to turn on alpha lock because I don't want the pink to show up on the background. There, I like that. Let's move to this leaf here. I'll have to turn off alpha lock again and go to the basic flow canvas. I'll pick this light color. I want to remove a little part here. Grab the darkened line brush for some little details here. And let's also add these little petals. We got some pink. I'll grab purple. I'll go to the, oh, I used the normal basic flow, see now. Well, I use the darken line brush, the darken line brush to add just some detail. Now let me just add a little bit more to the underground, like that little edge there. I'll use the basic flow canvas brush. Let me pick a light color. Making some horizontal strokes here to add texture, but I see that I'm actually working on the wrong layer. Of course, well, let me go to that lower layer now. It happens to all of us. Some shadow of the leaf here. Now, when we zoom out, it really looks like a vase with flowers. Now, for this final phase of the painting, well, you could keep it like this. I really like that painterly look, but if you want more detail, then you could go and zoom in on the flowers more and add even more detail. I have a zoomed in version of this flower, for example. And you can just go in and really add that small detail. Also for those smaller flowers, But yeah, just because I don't want this video to be like 10 hours long, I try to stick with the basics. I'll go to the flower layer again. But because I don't want the video to be, like I said, 10 hours long, I'll stick with the basic and with that painterly look. I really like that. But once you have this, it's really not that hard to keep continuing adding little details. As you can see with this brush, with the basic flow canvas brush, you'll keep having this canvas texture look. So if you would really like a very polished look, then you could go for the regular basic flow brush. And you could blend everything smoothly, and then you get a more polished look, less painterly. I'll just work on this flower a little bit more. I won't add a super amount of details to everything. I just want to show you that you can zoom in and add as much detail as you like. It'll take a lot of time to create a super detailed flower, but I think it can look really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing your artworks, your flowers in a vase. I don't want to bore you with a long and dragging detailing process. And perhaps we can do another still life sometime and then go for the polished look instead of a painterly look. I could definitely do that. But I like how painting like this gives your painting a lot of character. It's not just a copy of a photo. And the more time you invest, the more details you can add in. But for a realistic look, details aren't necessary because, as you can see, it does look like a vase with flowers. It's all about those values and those edges. Make sure that you refine those edges around the flowers. just try to add detail in select places. Of course, you can't go all over, add details everywhere, but adding detail in select places, that I think that adds some interest to your painting. Oh, what? I messed up here. Where did the pink come from? Oh. Let's go over that again. I think we have a very interesting looking vase. Let me think. I still feel like the vase itself needs a little bit more. We also work on this flower. It looks a bit messy. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Thought, why isn't it working? Using the darken line. But yeah, you can go on for hours like this, tweaking everything, adding more and more detail. There, I want to use the liquefy tool just one more time to work on this vase. Tiny bit more. I think that looks a bit better. There, but I think that we got an interesting looking vase with a painterly look. Let's just take a look at the steps that we took. So first we had a very rough sketch. Then we blocked in with that, square, what was it? Thick square chalk. Blocked some colors in. Then we started blending these blotches. And then we started detailing and adding that pattern to the vase, adding detail to the flower using the Basic Flow canvas brush. Then we added even more detail to the other flowers, keeping that painterly look. And then we went on adding even more detail, and you can really go all out in this vase. I said vase again. Vase. You can really go all out and add as much detail as you like. But if I don't stop here, then this video will take like 12 hours. So I hope that you learned something from this on how you can create a painterly still life painting. I'm looking forward to seeing your still lifes. It's great. I really think it's great that you're sharing in the community section and on Instagram. I really love seeing your work. It makes me so proud. I'm going to work on the next video and I will talk to you here at Patreon. Thanks for watching.